Commander Jake Morrison walked through the massive airlock of the Unity Sphere with steady steps. His tactical advisor, Lieutenant Amy Richardson, followed close behind. Both wore their formal United Nations Space Force uniforms, dark blue with silver trim. Neither of them expected what was about to happen. The Unity Sphere was the largest space station ever built. It floated in neutral space, far from any star system. 73 different alien species had built it together over 200 years. Every 100 years, they gathered here for one purpose. They ranked every space power in the galaxy. Jake had been to the Unity Sphere twice before, but only for diplomatic meetings. This was different. This was the Centennial Assessment, where the Galactic Council would announce the official power rankings. Earth had only joined the galactic community 40 years ago. Jake expected humans to be ranked somewhere around 30th place, maybe 40th if they were being honest. The council chamber was enormous. Seats rose in curved rows, each designed for a different species. Some aliens needed water tanks. Others required high-gravity platforms. A few floated in electromagnetic fields. Jake found the human section and sat down. Amy took the seat next to him. Ambassador Vexithor of the Krellian Empire stood at the center podium. The Krellians looked almost human, except for their silver skin and triple-jointed arms. They were known across the galaxy as the greatest strategic minds. Every war game, every tactical simulation, the Krellians won. They had held the second rank for the past 300 years. "Welcome to the Centennial Assessment," Vexithor said. His voice came through the translation device in Jake's ear. "The Eternal Archive has completed its analysis. Today we reveal the rankings." Jake leaned back in his seat. The Eternal Archive was an ancient artificial intelligence, older than most civilizations. No one knew who built it. The archive watched everything, every battle, every war, every conflict across the entire galaxy. Its rankings were based on pure data, not politics. "Fifth place," Vexithor announced. "The Thraxi Collective." The insect-like Thraxi chittered with pride. They were strong fighters, and they reproduced fast. Fifth place was good for them. Fourth place, the Morvian Federation. The Morvians showed no emotion. They never did. They were the technology masters of the galaxy. Their ships were faster. Their weapons more powerful. But they relied too much on their machines. Third place, the Xinthian Consciousness. The Xinthians glowed blue with satisfaction. They were telepaths, able to share thoughts across their entire species instantly. Perfect coordination in every battle. Second place, the Krellian Empire. Vexithor showed no reaction to his own species ranking. The Krellians expected second place. They had held it for centuries. Everyone knew first place belonged to the eldest ones, the ancient species that had ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years. And first place, Vexithor paused, humanity. The chamber exploded with noise. Aliens jumped from their seats. Some shouted in languages the translators could not keep up with. Others demanded recounts. A few laughed, thinking it was a mistake. Jake sat frozen. Amy grabbed his arm. "Did he just say us?" "That is impossible." General Korvath of the Krellian military stood up. "Humans have no superior traits. They are average in strength, average in intelligence, average in technology. How can they be ranked first?" Council Director Zalmek raised 4 of his 6 arms for silence. The tall, thin alien waited until the noise died down. "The archive does not make mistakes. The ranking is based on comprehensive analysis, combat effectiveness, adaptation speed, survival rates, most importantly, performance under impossible conditions." "Show us the data," someone shouted from the Morvian section. Zalmek nodded. "The archive has agreed to present evidence. It will show historical simulations of key events that led to this ranking." Jake stood up. "With respect, Director, we are as confused as everyone else. Humans are good at some things, but we are not the best at anything. What data could possibly rank us first?" The lights in the chamber dimmed. A holographic display appeared in the center, massive and clear. The Eternal Archive's voice filled the room. It sounded old and patient, like a teacher explaining something to children. I have observed galactic conflicts for 11,412 years, the archive said. I have watched species rise and fall. I have recorded over 9 million battles. My rankings are not based on single traits. No species is ranked first because they are strongest or smartest. Rankings reflect one question only. Which species is most likely to survive and win when facing impossible odds? The hologram shifted, showing battle statistics. The Krellians win 97% of battles when they have equal or superior forces. The Morvians win 94% under the same conditions. The Xinthians win 91%. These are impressive numbers. More statistics appeared. However, when facing superior opponents, the numbers change drastically. Krellians win 41% of battles against superior forces. Morvians win 38%. Xinthians win 36%. The final set of numbers made the chamber go silent. Humans, when facing superior opponents, win 68% of their battles. In the past 40 years, humans have faced technologically or numerically superior enemies in 72% of all conflicts. No other species regularly faces such disadvantageous conditions. No other species regularly wins despite those conditions. Impossible, Vexthor said quietly. I will show you 3 examples, the archive continued. These are not the only examples. I have 317 recorded human conflicts. These 3 are representative of what I have observed. The hologram changed, showing a space station orbiting a red giant star. This is the Battle of Kepler Station, 3 years ago. I will now play the simulation. Jake recognized Kepler Station immediately. He had read the reports. Captain Ryan Douglas had become famous after that battle. But reading reports was different from seeing it happen. The simulation began. A human cargo ship, the UNS Valiant, approached Kepler Station for resupply. Suddenly, 47 warships appeared from hyperspace. They were Zaroth vessels, painted in blood red. The Zaroth were raiders, killers who took what they wanted and destroyed everything else. The Zaroth fleet contained 47 ships, the archive narrated. The UNS Valiant was a cargo vessel with minimal weapons. Crew count 200. Station personnel 300. Total defensive capability 1 cargo ship and 6 station defense turrets. By all tactical calculations, human defeat was certain within 18 minutes. Jake watched Captain Ryan Douglas on the hologram. The man looked calm despite the impossible situation. All hands, this is the captain. We cannot run. We cannot hide. So we fight. I am dividing this crew into 7 teams. Each team gets 1 impossible problem to solve. You have full authority to use any equipment, any method, any crazy idea you can think of. Make it work. Amy leaned close to Jake. He gave them autonomy. Complete autonomy, Jake confirmed. No central command. Each team operated independently. The simulation showed engineer Beth Cooper in the cargo bay, rerouting the station's mining lasers. These cut through asteroids, she said to her team. Let's see if they cut through Zaroth shields. Pilot Kevin Harris was in the flight deck, using the ship's tractor beams to grab debris. Rocks can be bullets if you throw them fast enough. Medical officer Lisa Andrews stood in the medbay, looking at the radiation equipment used for cancer treatment. High enough dose, this becomes a weapon. The battle lasted 31 hours. The hologram showed the Zaroth fleet getting smaller, 19 ships destroyed, the rest retreated. The UNS Valiant was still there. Damage. The holographic display shifted to show a planetary surface. The world looked green and pleasant from orbit, with 2 small moons and calm oceans. The image zoomed down to a colony of prefabricated buildings arranged in neat rows. People walked between the structures, going about their daily work. "This is Theta Colony," the archive said. "Human population, 42,000. Established 7 years ago. A successful farming colony providing food for 3 nearby systems," Amy whispered to Jake. "I remember this one. The plague." Jake nodded grimly. Everyone in the Space Force knew about Theta Colony. It was taught in every academy as an example of crisis management, but also as a reminder of how fragile human colonies could be. The simulation showed a date stamp, 6 years ago. A cargo ship landed at the colony's main spaceport. Standard supply run, nothing unusual. The crew unloaded medical supplies, farming equipment, and personal packages for the colonists. 3 days later, people started getting sick. The hologram showed colonists collapsing in the streets, medical centers filled beyond capacity. The colony's chief medical officer, Dr. Helen Price, worked desperately to identify the disease. "Unknown biological agent," the archive explained. Later analysis determined it was a weapon designed by an extinct species, dormant in an ancient cargo container that was accidentally shipped to Theta Colony. The pathogen was extremely lethal. 90% mortality rate among adults. Death occurred within 72 hours of first symptoms. The simulation showed the horror in fast motion. Within 1 week, 38,000 adults were dead. The colony's entire leadership, all medical professionals, all engineers and technicians, gone. What remained were 4,000 survivors. The hologram zoomed in on them. They were all children and teenagers. The oldest was 17 years old. The youngest was 4. "No other known species has survived such a catastrophe," the archive stated. "I have records of 47 similar scenarios affecting other civilizations. All resulted in complete extinction of the affected population. Children cannot maintain technological systems. They cannot govern. They cannot produce food. They cannot defend against predators or environmental threats." The chamber was silent. Every species watching understood the implication. 4,000 children, alone on a frontier world, with no adults to guide them. It should have been the end. The simulation continued. A teenage girl stood in front of the remaining survivors. Her name appeared on the display. Megan Foster, age 16. She had been a student, studying agriculture before the plague hit. "Everyone listen," Megan said in the hologram. Her voice was steady despite the tears on her face. "We are all that is left. I know you are scared. I am scared too. But we can survive this. We have to organize right now." Another teenager stepped forward. Derek Chen, age 17. He had been training to be a colony administrator. "Megan is right. We need teams. Food production, water management, power systems, medical care, defense, and education. Everyone gets a job based on what you know or what you can learn." The hologram showed the children organizing themselves. 12-year-olds learning to operate water purification systems from instruction manuals. 14-year-olds teaching each other how to repair solar panels using video guides. 10-year-olds working in the hydroponic farms under the supervision of the older children. "I directed simulations of this scenario using other species," the archive said. Krellian children would have attempted perfect organization, but lacked the flexibility to handle unexpected problems. Morvian youth would have maintained technology but failed at social cohesion. Xinthian young would have coordinated well, but lacked individual initiative when telepathic links were too weak. In every simulation, extinction occurred within 3 months. The hologram fast-forwarded through 2 years. The colony did not just survive, it changed. The children created a new government system, one designed by young people for young people. They developed new farming techniques that were more efficient than the adult methods. They even made scientific discoveries. Megan stood in a laboratory, now 18 years old, holding up a vial of blue liquid. "This is the cure. We synthesized it from local plant compounds. It will not bring back those we lost, but it means this plague cannot hurt anyone else. The simulation ended with a view of Theta Colony 2 years after the plague. The population had grown to 4,500 as babies were born. The colony was thriving. Ships from other systems came to study their new governmental model and agricultural techniques. Human youth succeeded where adults of other species would have failed, the archive concluded. This demonstrates adaptive capacity independent of experience level. Vexthor stood again. These examples show resilience and creativity. I grant you that. But they are defensive victories, survival situations. What about offensive capability? What about conquest and expansion? The rankings should reflect all aspects of power. A reasonable point, the archive acknowledged. I will show you the third example. This one involves offensive operations. The hologram changed to show a contested star system. 2 planets orbited a yellow sun. Both were claimed by multiple species. The area was known as the Disputed Zone, where borders overlapped and conflicts were common. The Meridian Crisis 2 years ago, the archive said. 4 species claimed the same resource-rich asteroids in this system. The Krellians, the Morvians, the Draxi Alliance, and humanity. Each sent military forces. War appeared inevitable. The simulation showed 4 separate fleets entering the system from different directions. The Krellian fleet was the largest, 20 warships in perfect formation. The Morvians had 12 vessels, but with superior firepower. The Draxi brought 15 ships designed for hit-and-run tactics. The human fleet consisted of 7 ships, led by Commander Paul Griffin aboard the UNS Defender. The smallest force, the weakest fleet. Every tactical analysis predicted humans would be eliminated first, then the remaining 3 powers would fight for dominance. I calculated 9,412 possible outcomes, the archive said. In 9,009 of those scenarios, war occurred within 72 hours. In only 403 scenarios did humanity survive the first week. The hologram showed Commander Griffin in his command chair. He was a middle-aged man with gray hair and calm eyes. Open a channel to all fleets, all of them. His communications officer looked confused. Sir, we are supposed to be enemies. Just do it, Griffin said. The channel opened. Griffin's face appeared on every ship in all 4 fleets. This is Commander Paul Griffin of the United Nations Space Force. I have a proposal for everyone here. Nobody wants this war. We all want the resources in those asteroids, so let's divide them fairly. On the Krellian flagship, Admiral Torvan laughed. Fair? You have the smallest fleet. You get nothing. Exactly, Griffin said. We have the smallest fleet, which means we have the least to lose. If fighting starts, we will make sure everyone loses. We will self-destruct our ships in the middle of all your formations. We will use our drives as bombs. We will take as many of you with us as possible. Is that what you want? The channel went quiet. The Morvian commander spoke next. You would commit suicide rather than surrender? We would rather find a better solution, Griffin answered. Here is my proposal. We divide the asteroids into 4 equal sections. Each species gets 1 section. We set up a neutral monitoring station to prevent cheating. We all get rich. Nobody dies. Everybody wins. The Draxi representative hissed through the speakers. And if we refuse? Griffin smiled, but it was not a friendly smile. Then we all die here. Your choice. The hologram showed the standoff lasting for 6 hours. Each fleet commander ran calculations, talked to their governments, considered options. Finally, Admiral Torvan of the Krellians spoke. The human is insane, but he is also correct. The resources divided 4 ways are better than destroyed resources and dead crews. I accept the proposal. One by one, the others agreed. The simulation showed the 4 fleets working together to map the asteroid field and establish boundaries. Within a month, mining operations began. Within a year, All 4 species were profiting equally. This scenario had a 0.07% probability of peaceful resolution, the archive stated. Commander Griffin achieved it through a strategy I classify as mutually assured benefit, a variation of mutually assured destruction. He weaponized his weakness, turned it into leverage, and created an outcome where cooperation was more profitable than conflict. Jake watched the other species in the chamber. They were starting to understand. Humans did not win through superior strength or technology. They won by changing the nature of the contest itself. The archive continued. I have analyzed 317 human military engagements over 40 years. I have identified patterns that appear in 68% of human victories. First, rapid adaptation to unexpected circumstances. Second, decentralized decision-making that empowers individuals. Third, willingness to attempt low-probability solutions. Fourth, ability to form unexpected alliances. Fifth, redefining victory conditions when traditional victory is impossible. More data filled the holographic display. Charts, graphs, statistics. The numbers supported everything the archive was saying. The Krellians excel at strategy but struggle with adaptation. The Morvians excel at technology but rely too heavily on it. The Xinthians excel at coordination but lack individual initiative. The Thraxi excel at numbers but cannot innovate quickly. Every species has strengths and weaknesses. The archive's voice took on a different tone, almost like respect. Humans have no superior strengths, this is true, but they also have no crippling weaknesses. They are adequate at everything, which means they can compete in any domain. More importantly, they improve rapidly when facing new challenges. They learn from enemies. They adapt enemy tactics. They turn disadvantages into advantages. Vexthor was silent for a long moment. Then he spoke carefully. I begin to understand. You are not saying humans are the strongest. You are saying they are the most versatile. The Extinction Protocol simulation would begin in 24 hours. Jake Morrison stood in his assigned quarters aboard the Unity Sphere, studying the mission parameters on his datapad. The more he read, the worse it looked. 5 species would compete simultaneously. Each would command a colony of 10,000 individuals on the same hostile moon. The moon orbited a gas giant in an unstable system. Gravity fluctuations, radiation storms, aggressive predators, limited resources, and a countdown clock. 30 days until a massive meteor strike would devastate the entire moon. The goal was not just survival, it was thriving. Each colony would be judged on population health, technological advancement, and territorial expansion. Points would be awarded for achievements and deducted for losses. The species with the highest score after 30 days would win. Amy knocked on his door and entered. I have been reviewing the candidate list for our team. This is not going to be easy. Nothing about this is easy, Jake said. The archive called it mathematically unsolvable. That means the design is meant to force failure. So why did you accept? Jake set down his datapad. Because if we refuse every species in this chamber, we'll assume the archive made a mistake. Earth's reputation would be damaged. But more than that, I want to know if it is true. Are we really that good at handling impossible situations? Amy sat down across from him. Who are you choosing for the colony commander? Nicole Parker, Jake said immediately. She ran the frontier colony on New Seattle for 5 years, turned a failing settlement into the most successful colony in that sector. She thinks differently than most people. Different how? Most commanders follow the manual. Nicole rewrites the manual when it does not work. I need someone who will not be limited by standard procedures. Over the next 12 hours, Jake assembled his team. Nicole Parker would command the colony. Brandon Wells, a former asteroid miner who understood resource extraction better than any formally trained engineer. Chris Martinez, a xenobiologist who specialized in adapting to alien ecosystems quickly. Laura Kim, a medical officer who had pioneered frontier medicine techniques that saved lives with limited equipment. The simulation chamber was massive, with holographic displays surrounding the participants. Each species had their own command center with a team of 5 leaders. The other 9,995 colonists were simulated by the archive using behavioral models based on real population data. The Krellians entered first. General Korvath led their team, along with 4 strategic planning specialists. They moved with military precision, already discussing optimal settlement patterns. The Morvians came next, their silver environmental suits gleaming. They brought their best engineers and technology specialists. The Xinthians floated in, their telepathic field creating a visible shimmer in the air. The Thraxi scuttled in on their 6 legs, chittering to each other in their insect language. The crystalline Zelnari moved last, their hive mind operating in perfect unity. Jake led his team to the human command center. Nicole immediately started examining the moon's data. Brandon pulled up resource maps. Chris studied the native life forms. Laura reviewed medical scenarios. The archive's voice filled the chamber. The simulation will now begin. All colonies start with identical resources, identical equipment, and identical starting positions. Day 1 starts now. The holographic display showed the entire moon from orbit. 6 colony sites appeared, evenly spaced across the equatorial region. Each had basic shelters, food supplies for 60 days, water purification equipment, and minimal defensive weapons. The Krellians moved first. Their colony immediately began constructing defensive walls in a perfect hexagonal pattern. Every colonist had an assigned task. Every building went up in optimal sequence. It was beautiful to watch, like a perfectly choreographed dance. The Morvians deployed advanced technology immediately. Shield generators, automated mining drones, sensor arrays. They established the most sophisticated infrastructure within hours. The Xinthians spread out in concentric circles, their telepathic network allowing instant communication. They worked as one mind controlling 10,000 bodies. Their coordination was flawless. The Thraxi did what they did best. They reproduced. By the end of day 1, they had added 200 new colonists to their population. Numbers were their advantage, and they used it immediately. The Zelnari created a crystalline network, growing structures from the moon's minerals, their hive mind built with organic efficiency, requiring no spoken commands. Nicole watched all of this from the human command center. Then she did something unexpected. "We are not building anything today." Brandon looked up from his resource maps. "What? Every other species is already establishing infrastructure." "Exactly," Nicole said. "They are all rushing to implement their standard strategies. We need to understand this moon first. Chris, what can you tell me about the native life forms?" Chris pulled up biological data. 6 major predator species. All of them hunt in packs. All of them are highly aggressive. But there is something interesting in the archive's data. Their attack patterns show intelligence. They coordinate. They plan. "How intelligent?" Nicole asked. "Hard to say without observation." "But the data suggests more than animal instinct." Nicole nodded slowly. "Brandon, what about resources?" "The good deposits are all in the central region of the moon, equidistant from all colonies. If everyone goes for the same resources, we will have conflicts, probably within the first week." "Laura, medical concerns?" Laura highlighted several areas on the map. "The radiation storms are unpredictable but survivable with proper shelter. The bigger problem is the native diseases. 3 of them can infect humans. We will need to develop treatments fast." Nicole studied the displays for a long moment. "Here is what we do. Day 1 through day 5 we observe. We send out small teams to study the predators, map the resources in detail, and collect biological samples. We do not expand. We do not compete. We learn." Amy was watching from the observation area with Jake. She is falling behind already. Look at the Krellian settlement. They are twice the size of the human camp. Jake smiled slightly. Nicole is not trying to win in the first week. She is trying to understand the game board before making her moves. By day 5, the differences were stark. The Krellian colony had perfect defenses and organized production. The Morvian colony had the best technology and highest efficiency. The Xinthian colony had seamless coordination. The Thraxi population had grown to 12,000. The Zelnari had created a beautiful crystalline city. The human colony looked almost primitive by comparison. Smaller shelters, basic defenses, minimal expansion. But Nicole had something the others did not have: information. Chris returned from a scouting mission on day 6 with incredible news. "Commander, you need to see this. The predators are not just intelligent. They have a complex social structure. I think we can communicate with them." Nicole leaned forward. "Communicate? How?" "They respond to pattern-based signals. Visual patterns, sound patterns. It is like a language, but not verbal. I have been testing different combinations. They react. They understand." "Can we talk to them?" "I think we can do better than talk. I think we can negotiate." On day 7, Nicole sent Chris back out with a team. They carried no weapons, only signal devices that could create light patterns and sound frequencies. They approached a pack of 6 predators slowly, carefully. The predators circled them, growling. Chris activated the signal device. Patterns of light and sound played in sequence. The predators stopped growling. One of them, larger than the others, moved closer. It made a sound, then a gesture with its clawed limb. Chris copied the gesture. The predator made another sound. Chris adjusted the signal device, playing a new pattern. The predator sat down. The others followed. Back at the human colony, Nicole watched the interaction through remote cameras. He is actually talking to them. Over the next 3 days, Chris established basic communication. The predators were called the Kethra. They were not mindless animals. They had territory, family groups, and complex social rules. They saw the colonists as invaders, but were willing to discuss terms. Chris made an offer. Humans would help the Kethra hunt the large herbivores that the Kethra struggled to take down alone. In return, the Kethra would allow humans to pass through their territory safely and would warn them of dangers. The lead Kethra, which Chris named Blue Stripe because of its markings, considered the offer. Then it made a counteroffer through patterns and gestures. The Kethra would help defend the human colony from other predators. In exchange, humans would help the Kethra fight off a rival pack that had been encroaching on their territory. Nicole approved the deal. On day 11, humans and Kethra fought together for the first time. The rival pack retreated. The alliance was sealed. The other species noticed. The Krellians sent a diplomatic message. "This is irregular. The predators are part of the environmental challenge, not potential allies." Nicole sent back a simple response. "The rules say we are judged on survival and success. They do not say we cannot make friends." Brandon came to Nicole on day 12 with his own discovery. "Commander, I have been analyzing the resource distribution. The central deposits are the richest, but they are also the most contested. Every species is going to fight over them. But there are smaller deposits scattered around the moon that everyone is ignoring." "Because they are smaller," Nicole said. "Right. But if we combine them all, the total amount is actually greater than the central deposits. The problem is they are harder to reach and harder to mine." "So we take the hard route and avoid the conflict?" "Exactly. And I have another idea. What if we do not keep all the resources? What if we trade some of them?" Nicole raised an eyebrow. "Trade? With who?" "With whoever needs what we have. The Morvians have better technology, but they are running low on certain minerals because they use them all building their fancy equipment. We could trade minerals for technology access. The Xinthians have medical knowledge we could use. We could offer them the biological data Chris is collecting. On day 14, Nicole sent trade proposals to all other colonies. Most ignored them, but the Morvians responded. They needed specific minerals for their shield generators. Humans had found deposits of those minerals in the scattered sites Brandon had identified. The trade was simple. Minerals for access to Morvian shield technology designs. Both sides benefited. The Morvians got resources they needed. Humans got technology that improved their defenses. The Xinthians also responded. They were interested in Chris's biological research, especially information about the native diseases. In exchange, they offered telepathic-assisted medical treatments that could save lives. By day 17, the human colony had changed completely. They had Kethra allies patrolling their borders. They had Morvian shield technology protecting their core settlement. They had Xinthian medical knowledge keeping their population healthy. And they had resource networks that avoided the increasingly violent Conf Day 17 arrived with unexpected violence. The Thraxi launched a full-scale assault on the human colony. Their population had grown to 15,000, and they needed more territory. They calculated that humans, with the smallest military force, would be the easiest target. Nicole watched the Thraxi swarm approaching on the sensors, 3,000 warriors moving in coordinated waves. The human colony had only 500 trained fighters. The math was simple and brutal. Brandon ran into the command center. "They will overrun us in less than an hour. We need to evacuate." "No," Nicole said calmly. "We need to make a call." She activated the communication system that Chris had developed for talking to the Kethra. The signal went out in light patterns and sound frequencies. Within minutes, Blue Stripe and 200 Kethra warriors emerged from the forests surrounding the human colony. But Nicole was not done. She opened channels to the Morvian and Xinthian colonies. "This is Commander Parker. The Thraxi are attacking us. If they take our territory, yours is next." "They have overwhelming numbers. We need help." The Morvian commander responded first. "Why should we help you? This is a competition." "Because we have been trading with you," Nicole said. "We have given you resources. We have shared information. If we fall, you lose a valuable partner. More than that, the Thraxi will be stronger, strong enough to threaten you next." There was a pause. Then the Morvian commander spoke again. "We will provide defensive support, long-range weapons only. We are not sending troops." The Xinthian response was different. "We will send medical teams. Our telepaths can also provide early warning of Thraxi movements. This serves our mutual interests." The battle began at the edge of the human settlement. The Kethra hit the Thraxi first, their natural speed and claws devastating against the insect warriors. But the Thraxi had numbers. For every one they lost, 2 more pushed forward. Then Morvian weapons fire came from the hills, precise, powerful shots that destroyed Thraxi heavy weapons and disrupted their formations. The Thraxi had not expected resistance from multiple species working together. The Xinthian telepaths warned Nicole of a flanking movement. She repositioned her defenders just in time to stop the breakthrough. Human soldiers fought alongside Kethra warriors, using tactics they had practiced together over the past week. The battle lasted 4 hours. When it ended, the Thraxi had retreated, having lost over 800 warriors. The human colony had lost 43 people. It was a painful loss, but without the alliances, everyone would have died. General Korvath observed the battle from his command center. "Interesting. They turned a military engagement into a diplomatic coalition, but this does not change the fundamental challenge. The meteor arrives in 13 days. Numbers and alliances will not stop that." He was right. The countdown was the real threat. Every colony had been preparing for it, but in different ways. The Krellians had built massive underground bunkers, calculated to withstand the impact. The Morvians had created shield generators powerful enough to deflect debris. The Xinthians were preparing to evacuate to caves on the far side of the moon. The Zelnari would retreat into their crystalline structures and go dormant. The Thraxi were simply planning to absorb the losses and rebuild with their rapid reproduction. Nicole gathered her team on day 20. "We have a problem. Our shelters will not survive the meteor impact. The archive's data shows the impact will create shockwaves that will flatten everything within 200 kilometers of ground zero." Laura pulled up survival projections. "With our current preparations, we will lose 60% of the population, maybe more." "That is not acceptable," Nicole said. "We need a better solution." Chris looked at the data thoughtfully. "The Morvian shields would save us, but they do not have enough generators to protect their own population and ours." Brandon added, "The Krellian bunkers would work, but they built them for their population size. We cannot fit everyone." "What if we combine solutions?" Nicole asked. "Morvian shields with Krellian structural designs, Xinthian telepathic coordination for evacuation, Kethra scouts to rescue anyone trapped." Amy was watching from the observation area. "She is doing it again. Instead of choosing one solution, she is trying to merge everything." Nicole sent out a broadcast to all colonies simultaneously. "This is Commander Nicole Parker of the human colony. I have a proposal. The meteor will kill thousands of us, maybe tens of thousands. But it does not have to. We can work together. Share technology, share resources, save everyone." She outlined her plan. Morvian shield technology combined with Krellian engineering to create shared shelters, Xinthian telepaths to coordinate evacuation across all colonies, human and Kethra teams to rescue stragglers. Everyone contributes, everyone benefits. The Zelnari rejected the offer immediately. They would handle the crisis alone. The Thraxi also refused, still angry about their failed attack. But the Morveans considered it carefully. "What do you offer us in return?" the Morvian commander asked. "Everything we have learned about this moon," Nicole said. "All of Chris's biological data. All of Brandon's resource maps. Complete access to our alliance with the Kethra and our labor. We have 10,000 people ready to help build these shelters." The Morvians calculated the benefits. Finally, they agreed. "We will provide shield generators and technical expertise, but we want the Krellians involved. Their structural engineering is better than ours." Nicole contacted General Korvath directly. "General, I know you want to prove Krellian superiority, but I am offering you a chance to save more lives than any other species. Is that not a better victory?" Korvath was silent for a long moment. Then he spoke. "You are a strange species, Commander Parker. You turn competitions into collaborations. Very well. We will contribute our engineering knowledge and structural designs, but only because the logic is sound." Over the next 10 days, something unprecedented happened in the simulation. 3 species worked together to build a network of shelters that would protect everyone who wanted protection. The Morvians provided shield generators. The Krellians designed the structures for maximum stability. Humans provided the labor and coordination. Xinthians added their telepathic communication network for evacuation management. Even some Thraxi settlements joined quietly after seeing the benefits. The Zelnari remained isolated, confident in their own methods. The shelters went up in record time. 50 sites across the moon, each designed to hold thousands of colonists from multiple species. The Kethra were trained to scout the surrounding areas and guide stragglers to safety. Day 30 arrived. The meteor was visible in the sky, growing larger by the hour. All colonies activated their survival plans. The Zelnari retreated into their crystalline structures. The isolated Thraxi settlements dug into the ground, but the collaborative network moved everyone to the shared shelters. Nicole stood in Shelter 12 watching the countdown. Around her were humans, Morvians, Krellians, Xinthians, and even a few Thraxi who had accepted the offer. Blue Stripe and several Kethra were there too, having guided lost colonists to safety minutes before the deadline. The meteor hit on the far side of the moon. The impact was catastrophic. Shock waves rippled across the surface. The ground shook violently. Buildings collapsed. The Morvian shields held, flickering under the stress but maintaining integrity. The Krellian structures absorbed the force, distributing it through their perfect engineering. In the observation chamber, Jake and Amy watched the results compile. The isolated Zelnari shelters had failed. Their crystalline structures were strong but not flexible enough for the shock waves. 78% casualties. The Thraxi who stayed in their own settlements suffered 63% losses. The Krellian bunkers that housed only Krellians saved 87%. The Morvian shields protecting only Morvians saved 92%. But the collaborative shelters achieved 98% survival rates. Nearly everyone who entered them survived. Humans, aliens, predators that had become allies, all alive because they worked together. The simulation ended. The archive's voice filled both the simulation chamber and the observation area. Final scores calculated, ranking by total points earned. The scores appeared on the displays. The Zelnari were last, their isolation having cost them dearly. The Thraxi were fourth, their aggression having created enemies instead of allies. The Krellians were third, their perfect planning having saved their own people, but no one else. The Morvians were second, their technology having been valuable to all, and first place went to humanity. Not because they had the best technology or the strongest military or the most perfect planning, but because they had the highest overall survival rate, the most successful alliances, and the most innovative solutions to impossible problems. General Korvath stood slowly. The Krellian general walked to the human command center, where Nicole was reviewing the final data. He stopped in front of her and gave a formal Krellian salute. "I understand now," he said quietly. "The archive was correct. You do not win by being the strongest. You win by making everyone stronger, including your enemies." Nicole smiled. "With respect, General, you are not our enemies. You never were. You were just potential allies we had not met yet." The Morvian commander approached as well. "We propose a formal alliance. Our technology, your adaptability, Krellian strategy. Together we would be formidable." Xinthian representatives floated over, their telepathic field pulsing with agreement. Even some Thraxi observers chittered in a way that Chris translated as respect. In the observation chamber, ambassadors from dozens of species watched this unprecedented moment. The test had been designed to prove which species was strongest. Instead, it proved something else entirely. The strongest species was the one that made strength irrelevant by building coalitions. Ambassador Vexthor stood and addressed the chamber. "I believe we have witnessed something important here. The archive ranked humanity first, not because they excel at any single thing, but because they excel at bringing everyone together. In a galaxy full of threats, that may be the most valuable power of all." The chamber filled with voices, aliens from different species talking to each other for the first time in years. Not arguing about rankings, but discussing possibilities. What could they achieve together? What the council chamber filled again after a brief recess. The energy had changed completely. Species that had barely spoken to each other before were now engaged in active conversations. Trade proposals were being discussed. Defense agreements were being drafted, all because of what they had witnessed in the simulation. Ambassador Vexthor called the session to order. "The extinction protocol has concluded. The results have been verified. But I believe many here still want to understand the deeper reasoning behind humanity's first-place ranking. Archive, will you explain your analysis?" The holographic display activated once more. The Eternal Archive's patient voice filled the chamber. "I will explain the 5 key factors that determine my rankings. These factors apply to all species, but humans demonstrate unique advantages in each category." The first set of data appeared. Factor 1. Adaptive versatility. Most species excel in narrow domains. The Krellians are masters of strategy and planning. The Morvians are masters of technology. The Xinthians are masters of coordination. Each has optimized for their strength. This creates power, but also vulnerability. The display showed comparative charts. Humans maintain adequate competence across all domains. They are not the best strategists, but they can plan effectively. They are not the most advanced in technology, but they can build and repair complex systems. They are not telepathic, but they can coordinate through communication. This baseline competence means humans can operate in any environment and can rapidly improve in whatever domain becomes necessary. The second factor appeared. Factor 2. Collaborative innovation under pressure. I've observed that most species cooperate within their own populations efficiently. However, cross-species collaboration is rare. Cultural barriers, biological incompatibilities, historical conflicts. These factors prevent most species from forming alliances with others. Video from the simulation played, showing Nicole meeting with the Morvian commander, then the Krellian general, then the Xinthian representatives. Humans demonstrate a unique capacity to form partnerships with any species, including former enemies, when facing existential threats. They view collaboration not as weakness, but as resource multiplication. Commander Parker's coalition achieved results that no single species could have matched. Jake noticed delegates from different species nodding. The simulation had proven this point beyond argument. The third factor appeared on the display. Factor 3. Acceptable risk tolerance. When facing low-probability scenarios, most species optimize only for high-probability success. If a solution has less than 30% chance of working, it is typically discarded. This is logical for known situations, but limiting for unprecedented challenges. The hologram showed Captain Ryan Douglas from the Battle of Kepler Station. Humans regularly attempt solutions with low probability of success when facing impossible odds. Captain Douglas's victory had a calculated success probability of 0.03%. Yet he attempted it because the alternative was certain death. Humans understand that 0.03% is better than 0%. General Korvath spoke up. But that is reckless. Acting on such low probabilities leads to failure more often than success. Correct, the archive agreed. Humans fail frequently. Their casualties in conflicts are often higher than more cautious species. However, in truly impossible scenarios where all high-probability solutions have been exhausted, humans are the only species that consistently finds a way forward. They survive situations that annihilate more careful species. The fourth factor appeared. Factor 4. Decentralized decision-making. I have observed that most species maintain hierarchical command structures where decisions flow from central authority. This creates efficiency and consistency, but reduces adaptability when central command is disrupted or faces unprecedented situations. The simulation showed the Battle of Kepler Station again, focusing on the 7 independent teams. Captain Douglas divided his crew and gave each team complete autonomy. Engineer Beth Cooper, pilot Kevin Harris, and medical officer Lisa Andrews each made critical decisions without requesting permission. This decentralized model creates redundancy and innovation. If one approach fails, others continue operating. If central command makes an error, subordinates can correct it. Vexthor leaned forward. But this creates chaos. How do humans maintain coordination without central control? Amy Richardson stood up to answer. We do not abandon coordination. We just distribute it. Each team understands the overall goal and has authority to achieve it through any method they devise. It is like the human body. If you cut one finger, the hand still functions. Our command structure is similar. Redundant, adaptive, resilient. The fifth and final factor appeared on the display. The chamber went quiet, sensing this was the most important point. Factor 5. Perspective transformation. This is humanity's most unique and powerful advantage. When facing impossible scenarios, humans consistently redefine victory conditions. They change the rules of engagement not through deception, but through creative reinterpretation of objectives. The hologram showed Commander Paul Griffin from the Meridian Crisis. Commander Griffin faced a military confrontation he could not win. Instead of accepting defeat, he transformed the scenario from a combat situation into a negotiation. He weaponized his weakness, turning certain death into leverage for mutual benefit. The conflict ended without a single casualty, and all parties profited. The display shifted to show Nicole Parker's coalition building. Commander Parker faced a survival competition designed to create conflict. Instead of accepting that framework, she transformed it into a collaborative rescue operation. The result was the highest survival rate in the simulation's history. The archive's tone became almost reverent. I have observed galactic conflicts for over 11,000 years. I have watched civilizations rise and fall. The most common cause of extinction is rigid thinking. Species that cannot adapt their perspective when facing new threats do not survive. Humans demonstrate extraordinary cognitive flexibility. When one approach fails, they do not simply try harder. They question the approach itself and create entirely new frameworks for success. More data filled the displays. Statistics, historical records, probability calculations, every number supported the archive's conclusion. The Krellians will always outplan humans in conventional scenarios. The Morvians will always out-engineer them. The Xinthians will always out-coordinate them. But in unconventional scenarios, in impossible situations, in circumstances where traditional advantages become irrelevant, humans excel. They find solutions that mathematically should not exist. They survive odds that should guarantee extinction. They turn enemies into allies and disasters into opportunities. The archive paused, then continued with its final statement. My rankings are not based on current power, but on probability of long-term survival. In a galaxy where threats are unpredictable and constantly evolving, the species most likely to survive is not the strongest or the smartest. It is the most adaptable, the most collaborative, and the most willing to transform impossible situations into survivable ones. That species is humanity. The chamber remained silent for a long moment. Then General Korvath stood. The Krellian general walked to the center of the chamber and faced Jake Morrison directly. Commander Morrison, I came here today believing the archive had made an error. I leave here understanding it was I who was in error. The Krellian Empire formally requests a strategic alliance with humanity. We offer our expertise in planning and tactics. In return, we ask that you teach us your methods of adaptive thinking. Jake stood and met the general's eyes. We accept. But not as superior to subordinate, as equals working together. Korvath extended his three-jointed arm for a handshake. Agreed. The Morvian commander stood next. The Morvian Federation also requests alliance. We will share our technology in exchange for access to your collaborative methods. One by one, species representatives stood. The Xinthians, the Draxi, the peaceful Harmonians, even some Thraxi delegates speaking for the settlements that had joined the coalition during the simulation. Within 2 hours, 37 species had requested formal alliances with humanity. Not as followers, but as partners. The Unity Sphere, designed for competition and ranking, had become the birthplace of the largest cooperative alliance in galactic history. Vexthor stood at the center podium. This council session has produced an unexpected outcome. We gathered to confirm rankings. We are leaving with a new galactic structure. I propose we formalize this as the Cooperative Defense Initiative, an alliance dedicated to the principle that no species should face impossible odds alone. The vote was unanimous. The Cooperative Defense Initiative was born. Jake found himself surrounded by alien ambassadors, all asking questions. How did humans develop such adaptability? Could it be taught? Would humans share their methods? He answered as best he could, but the truth was simple. Humans adapted because they had to. Earth's history was full of impossible challenges that forced innovation or extinction. That pressure had shaped humanity into what they were. Nicole approached Jake as the crowd thinned. Did we just accidentally unite the galaxy? Looks like it, Jake said with a tired smile. The brass back on Earth is going to have a lot of questions. What do we tell them? The truth. We came here to prove we deserve first rank. We left with something better. Allies, partners, a galaxy that works together instead of competing. Amy joined them, holding a data pad. I have been reading the formal alliance documents. This is unprecedented. Shared defense, shared research, shared resources. If this works, it could change everything. If it works, Nicole repeated. That is a big if. It will work, Jake said with confidence. Because it has to. The galaxy is dangerous, full of threats we have not even discovered yet. Working together is not just smart. It is the only way to survive. The observation deck of the Unity sphere offered a view of the surrounding space. Stars stretched in every direction, billions of them, representing billions of challenges that the galaxy would face. Jake stood there later that evening watching the various alien ships departing. They were not leaving as competitors anymore. They were leaving as allies. Vexthor approached quietly. Commander Morrison, may I speak with you privately? Of course, Ambassador. The Krellian diplomat stood beside Jake, looking out at the stars. My species has existed for 6,000 years. We have been part of the galactic community for 4,000. In all that time, we have maintained our power through strategic superiority. We calculated every scenario, planned for every contingency. We believed that was the path to survival. He paused, his silver skin reflecting the starlight. Today, I learned that perfect planning can become a limitation. The archive showed us scenarios where our strategies failed because we could not imagine alternatives. We optimized so thoroughly for known threats that we became vulnerable to unknown ones. What will you do? Jake asked. Learn, Vexthor said simply. Learn from humans. Learn from all species. Adapt our thinking. The Krellians are excellent students when we accept that we have something to learn. And we will learn from you, Jake replied. Humans are creative and adaptable, but we lack discipline and long-term planning. Working together makes both our species stronger. Vexthor gave a Krellian smile, which looked strange on his alien features. The archive was right about something else, too. Humans do not seek to be the best. You seek to help everyone survive. That is why you deserve to be ranked first. True leadership is not about dominance. It is about service. As the last ships departed, Jake received a transmission from Earth. The Secretary General wanted a full report. Earth's government was both excited and nervous about the new alliances, excited about the opportunities, nervous about the responsibilities. Jake began composing his report. How did he explain that humanity had not conquered the galaxy or impressed it with superior abilities? How did he explain that humans had succeeded by admitting their limitations and asking for help? How did he explain that the most powerful position in the galaxy was not at the top of the hierarchy, but at the center of the network? He decided to keep it simple. We went to the Unity sphere ranked first among galactic powers. We proved that ranking was accurate not by demonstrating superiority, but by demonstrating collaboration. Humanity's greatest strength is our willingness to turn any species, even enemies, into partners when facing impossible odds. We have formed the Cooperative Defense Initiative with 37 species. The galaxy is no longer competing. It is cooperating, and that makes all of us safer. He sent the report and looked out at the stars one more time. Somewhere out there were threats the galaxy had not faced yet. Extinction-level dangers, impossible challenges. But for the first time in galactic history, the response would not be isolated species fighting alone. It would be a united front, bringing together the best of every civilization. The Krellians would provide strategy. The Morvians would provide technology. The Zynthians would provide coordination. The humans would provide adaptability and the willingness to try impossible solutions. Together, they could face anything. The archive made one final entry in its records, visible only to itself. Humanity confirmed as first-ranked power. Reasoning. They understand that true power is not the ability to defeat all enemies, but the ability to transform all enemies into allies. Threat assessment to hostile forces. Catastrophic. Any species that threatens humanity now threatens the entire Cooperative Defense Initiative. Prediction. Humanity will lead the galaxy into an era of unprecedented cooperation. They will achieve this not through conquest, but through persistent, stubborn insistence that everyone deserves a chance to survive. Final note. They will drag the entire galaxy toward survival, whether individual species want it or not. This is humanity's greatest power and greatest gift. Jake Morrison left the Unity Sphere the next day. Earth was waiting. The new alliance needed organizing, dozens of species needed coordination, resources needed allocation, defense plans needed creation. It was overwhelming. But as the human ships jumped to hyperspace, Jake felt something he had not expected. Hope. Real hope that the galaxy could face its future together. That impossible odds could be overcome. That no species had to face extinction alone. Because humans had proven something important. They were not ranked first because they were the strongest. They were ranked first because they refused to let strength be the only answer. In a galaxy full of impossible challenges, that made all the difference. Problems could they solve? What impossible odds could they overcome? Jake watched it all unfold and realized something profound. The test had not just proven humanity's ranking, it had changed the entire conversation. Instead of arguing about who was strongest, the galaxy was now thinking about how to be stronger together. Nicole left the simulation chamber and found Jake in the observation area. "How did we do, Commander?" Jake smiled. "You just changed galactic politics. How does that feel?" "Terrifying," Nicole admitted, "but also right. Nobody should face impossible odds alone, not when there are so many willing hands to help." Licks over the central deposits. The Krellians and Thraxi were fighting each other over mining rights. The Zelnari had isolated themselves, refusing all contact. But humans were building bridges, creating partnerships, finding solutions through cooperation instead of competition. General Korvath watched from his command center with growing frustration. They are not playing the game correctly. This is meant to be a competition, not a diplomatic exercise. But the archive was watching everything, recording every decision, measuring every outcome. And it was calculating scores based on the stated criteria: survival, advancement, and adaptation. The humans were not winning on any single metric, but they were doing well enough on all of them, and they were creating something none of the other species had considered. They were building a network. Precisely, the archive confirmed. In a galaxy where threats are unpredictable and challenges are diverse, versatility is the ultimate power. Humans do not need to be the best at any one thing. They need to be good enough at everything, and they are. General Korvath stood up, his silver skin gleaming under the chamber lights. "I still doubt these conclusions. Rankings should be proven through direct competition, not historical analysis. I propose a test. Let humans prove they deserve first rank." Jake felt his stomach tighten. A test. Against the top species in the galaxy. This could go very badly. Zalmec looked at Jake. "Commander Morrison, do you accept this challenge?" Jake looked at Amy. She gave him a small nod. They both knew refusing would make humanity look weak. Accepting could prove the archive wrong and embarrass Earth. but it could also prove something important. "What kind of test?" Jake asked. General Korvoth smiled. "The Extinction Protocol, a war game scenario considered mathematically unsolvable. Let us see if human versatility can overcome impossible odds when facing the best the galaxy has to offer." But functional. The chamber was completely silent now. Every alien watched the simulation end with humans cheering on the damaged station. "This victory had a statistical probability of 0.03%, the archive said. Yet humans achieved it. This is not an isolated incident. I will now show you the second example." Jake looked around the chamber. The protests had stopped. Now the aliens were watching, really watching, trying to understand how a species so average could do something so impossible. Vexthor sat down slowly, his expression thoughtful. "Perhaps we have been measuring the wrong things." The archive continued its presentation, and Jake realized something important. Humanity was not ranked first because they were better than everyone else. They were ranked first because they refused to accept impossible situations. They changed the rules, found new solutions, and somehow made the impossible possible. He just hoped the rest of the galaxy would accept that.